to the SnailTrail4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading on Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic Mini Coopers are, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler. Joining me for another episode of the SnailTrail4x4 podcast is No Rice, No Life, Jimmy Jet.
What up? How's it going over there?
That hurt. That was a painful cough.
You still look a little sick.
Man, I don't know. I'm doing pretty good. I feel fine.
All right.
For the most part.
Feeling better?
I don't know about better, but it just still feels like I've been yelling at a concert for a few days.
Dang. Sorry to hear that.
Who do we got in the studio today, Jimmy?
We have Rudy from Rudys Adventure and Design.
Yeah. Cool guy. He was a lot of fun. Did you know going, I mean, we kind of talked about it I know the answer to this, but did you have any idea that he was related to Matt?
No, I had no idea.
You did?
No idea. I almost feel like shit. I need to start doing a little bit of preparation before an interview and going into something like that. But nope. Did not know that one bit.
I don't know. I'm kind of glad we didn't though, because if we had done the prep beforehand, I feel like it would have been more about Matt's off-road recovery.
Maybe.
Then maybe more about what he's doing and the stuff that he's designing and he's building.
There were a lot of questions I wanted to ask, but I did not want to make it a Matt's recovery episode.
Right? Yeah. So I don't know, maybe we can have him on again, or maybe he can talk to his dad to get his dad on or something. We can do an episode on that. But after he said it, I was like, oh yeah, he looks like a much younger version of Matt. I can see that now.
Yep.
So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, but an absolute blast to have Rudy on. He's building some cool stuff. We've got him on because of the OnX Off-Road Build Challenge that we're trying to swoop everybody up and get their information about what they're doing for the challenge this year. And Rudy was just another victim to our DMs.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. He's doing some really rad stuff and he kind of kept joking around about it, how he was a fourth grade dropout. Didn't go to school, blah, blah, blah. He's a smart cookie.
Yes.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I mean, there's something to be said there, about, whether if you're good at school or not, doesn't mean that you're not a smart person.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
That's just you have talents in other areas and school was not that.
Yep. 100%. I mean, you and I have talked about it. I did a research paper in college about the difference of classical education, pedagogical style education, which is a teacher lecturing instead of hands-on experiential education.
Sure.
And I think that maybe he's a victim of that, but he definitely seems the hands-on experience. That's how he learns. That's how he figures stuff out. And he does it really, really well.
Yeah. I'm definitely more in that side of things. And my daughter is excited because she's starting to read a 600-page book.
Ugh.
And I'm like, no, thank you.
Nope.
I would rather live those 600 pages.
Yeah, right.
And she'd rather read them. But anyways, moving on. I'll run through really quick everything that we kind of got going so we can get to this awesome interview that we just did with Rudy. Let's see. We've got our monthly giveaway happening. We are trying to get confirmation from the company that we want to work with for this next month. So I can't exactly tell you. I'm not going to tell you who it is with because in case things don't work out, I don't want to tease everybody about that. But I'll let everybody know. We'll let everybody know next week if what we're going to be giving away. We're really pushing to try to get this other company on board. And I think you guys would all enjoy it as well. So next week, we'll give you the full details on everything. Probably next Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, we'll let everybody know. We'll also do FNGs and birthdays and everything then also. And the giveaway for the Gear Wrench tools that we have in the back of the warehouse. What else do we have going on? We've got reviews.
Yep.
And for 600 or 650 is done. And then 700 reviews, we are going to be giving away a swag pack that includes an OnX Off-Road Elite membership. And then once we get to 750 reviews, we are giving away a set of tires from Yokohama Tire.
Yep. So if you guys want to win some cool stuff, just make sure you're following along with everything we got going on. Lots of reviews all the time. giveaways and fun stuff for you guys all the time. We get to partner with some really cool companies here on the podcast, and that's all because you guys listen and follow along and engage with us and engage with the companies that we end up partnering up with for you guys. So keep all of that going on if you guys like the giveaways, and we'll continue doing more.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
I like it.
Shall we get into our discussion for today?
Let's do it. It was a fun one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. He's got a really fun build going on that has some very interesting things going on with the design and engineering on it. So without further ado, we got Rudy Wetzel in the house. We'll take a quick break, hear from Brian over at 4-Wheel Underground, and then we'll be right on back with Rudy from Rudys Adventure and Designs.
The 4-Wheel Underground website just got an upgrade. Come on by and check out the new functionality, new photos, and new pricing. Finally works on mobile too. Visit 4wheelunderground.com and find your new suspension today.
Oh, welcome back, ladies, gentle ladies, kiddos, boys, dogs, girls, everybody out there that loves off-roading and loves building weird shit. We are here today with another really awesome interview with an OnX Build Challenger. We've got Jimmy, of course, in studio. I'm back here in the studio as well. And we have in our online studio, Rudy from Rudys Adventure and Designs, who's building a pretty rad, see what I did there? A build here for a build challenge. Rudy, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be a part of this, and thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, man. Just real quick, how long have you been building stuff?
I mean, honestly, when I got the first RC car for Christmas when I was like 6,
Okay.
I was tearing into it, making it what I thought was better at the time, but I actually probably destroyed a couple of them.
You put triple bypasses on it and portals and all that good stuff.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
That's funny. Okay, so cool, man. There's that was just real quick. I'm just curious because you do some pretty interesting build stuff. A lot of times we have people on the podcast and we're very off-road centric, right? We're very rock crawl centric in the off-roading world, but you do a lot of other multiple variations of building vehicles, and we don't get very many of those people on the show very often. So I was just kind of curious if that's something that started later in life or if it was really early. It sounds like it was pretty early in life.
Yeah, I mean, it just so happens like where I live, off-roading is a big part of the area and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm heavily involved with it there. But I mean, my love for automotives and mechanics goes beyond that. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let that stop me from being creative.
Nice. How did you get into that love for automotive stuff? Was your family gearheads, or was it just you're like, hey, I have a RC car. How can I make this thing faster? And it stemmed from there.
Yeah, I mean, I owe a lot of it to my dad, Matt, from Matt's Off-Road Recovery. And like just growing up, he always had something to work on, specifically Corvairs. And then just kind of the job he had led us into Jeeps and off-roading. So,
yeah. Okay. So did you end up learning a lot of, are you classically trained in automotive stuff? Like, did you go to a tech school for automotive school, or was it literally just getting your hands dirty, learning how stuff works and being that shade tree mechanic until you get to this point where you're like, man, I could do some pretty cool stuff?
Well, I'd still call myself a shade tree mechanic, but
we all are at some point.
a couple more tools than the average guy, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I'm a 4th grade dropout. I homeschooled, that's air quotes, homeschooled after that. And then, yeah, I got a job pretty early on. I actually did tile and then moved on to roofing. And then when I became old enough to actually drive, I became a tow truck driver. So that's kind of where I started. And just through all that stuff, there's a lot of problem solving with those jobs and just working through things, and all that stuff just helps in the shop. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. You talk about problem solving as a tow truck driver. It's definitely, I mean, you have to be very aware of physics and what limited resources you have to get a job done safely and without doing more damage to whatever you're recovering. Is that, I mean, you obviously, there's a lot that goes on with that, and there's a big frame of reference that you really have to be on site to truly understand. But I think that, you know, if you watch a lot of the shows like Matt's Off-Road Recovery, a bunch of recovery shows that, you know, they're out on like Discovery Channel or History Channel, whatever. There's a lot of times that people can watch those shows and be like, why'd you do that? What are you doing that for? Why you're totally using that equipment wrong? You're going to kill somebody. Do you get a lot? Do you guys get a lot of that feedback from in the tow industry, or how do you deal with stuff like that?
I mean, every tow truck driver is going to do something different. They're going to and most of what they do is based off of like past experience and what worked for them or who taught them how to run a tow truck. And some of the stuff is wrong, but I mean, a lot of it, yeah, is just experience, the experience they have. But yeah, I mean, problem solving is kind of what I like to do. And I kind of give myself a lot of problems to solve.
That seems like part of the industry to some extent. Yeah. We constantly develop something in our head and how we want it, and then really I wouldn't say struggle, but really try to figure out how to build that. And that's the overall big problem, right? Like you have this dream of something you want, but the creation is the hard part.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Maybe it was just me, but I didn't realize that you were Matt's son. Did you know that?
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Okay.
I get that a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that kind of, it brought up a whole nother slew of questions.
Yeah.
But, was your father always sort of into recovery or a tow truck driver as well?
No. So growing up, he was in the roofing industry. And he started a company with a partner and everything. And then one day he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want out. So his partner bought him out. And it just so happened that I guess someone he knew was either selling a tow company or he's like, he had the parts to build a tow truck. So he built a tow truck, and that's what he started doing.
Got it. So were you driving a tow truck at that point in time?
No. So that happened around, I was around 10 years old at that time. And during that time of the startup and him moving to towing, I actually lived in Canada with my mom. So my parents are divorced, and
okay.
Yeah.
What part of Canada?
So I lived in London, Ontario, like the most southern part of Canada.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something funny, like 80% of Canada lives within like 30 miles of the border or something like that of the United States and Canada. So.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's pretty crazy like that, but I don't blame them. The cold kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have a dual citizenship, or are you a citizen of one or the other, or dual? What's going on there?
Yeah, I've got a dual citizenship, so I can commit proper crimes in both countries.
Exactly, right? That's say it comes in handy sometimes.
As a fourth grade dropout and homeschool, then you probably didn't learn French.
No, but I did have a brother that went to French immersion, and he came out not knowing a word of French too.
That seems the common theme of Canada, unless you're in Quebec, right? Those people are diehard French fans for some reason.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's kind of weird, actually.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, there's a weird hate from my understanding of Canada. Like all of Canada hates Quebec, and Quebec hates all of Canada.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird little feud going on there. But like I tell people all the time, like if you go to Canada, it feels like a different country, kind of, compared to the United States. There's just little reminders here and there that'll tell you like, oh, actually, I am in a different country. But then you go to Quebec, and the average Canadian can't even get around there because the first language is French.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Yeah.
Beautiful city, though. Quebec and Montreal. I've been to both of them. Absolutely beautiful cities. So.
Yes, they are. A lot of history in them too.
Yeah, for sure.
For Canada.
Right? Mm-hmm. How's the wheeling up there?
I wasn't into anything like that.
I was curious.
So, yeah.
Well, maybe we need to fix that.
I'd like to get up there and hit some of the stuff, but
okay. Dang, we're getting all the backstory here. So when did you move back from Canada?
All right. So at 10 years old, okay, so like I was born right in St. George, Utah, and my parents split up. My mom gained custody of me, and I lived with her in Las Vegas, or just outside of Las Vegas in a little town called Pahrump. And around 2008, 2009, there was the economy crash, and things weren't going well there for my mom and stepdad. So they both actually have dual citizenships as well. So they moved back to Canada, where they were from, surrounded by a lot of family and whatnot. I lived there with them for 7 years. And when I was 10, I moved to Canada with my mom and stepdad. And then, I lived there for 7 years before I felt like I got kicked out because they didn't like my cowboy boots there. So I moved back to Utah, where they appreciate them a little more.
All right. Moved back with dad at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. And dad was already a tow truck driver.
Yep. So I would visit 4 times a year, flying back and forth. And that became a big hassle, but we're not going to talk about that.
We don't need to go into the family drama.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about the traveling drama of like 12 years old, stuck in Chicago by yourself. No one knows where you're at because of a winter storm.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So was the movie Home Alone 2 based off of you?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I feel like
Too funny. Cool. So how old were you then when you started driving the tow truck?
So pretty much as soon as I turned 16, I got my driver's license. If I wasn't running the calls, I was running the tow trucks to the calls, so my dad could legally do the tow. Because I wasn't certified for that yet. Insurance wouldn't cover me under the business. But then we found a workaround with our insurance, and I was able to start doing like full-time tow truck stuff around, I think 17, 18. And with that, I just kept gaining experience in the field. But then, this is where the off-road portion of it all comes in. The area of St. George is very heavily like off-road. There's a lot of places to explore, and there's a lot of national parks nearby. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of tourists here in their rental cars who don't know when to turn around.
Yeah.
So, and they'd call us when they'd get stuck. They'd be like, we need to call a tow truck. And we'd be like, we can't get you where you're at in a tow truck.
Yeah.
So a buddy of ours that was on search and rescue convinced us to buy a Jeep Cherokee to use for our off-road recoveries. They could call us as a tow company, and we just dispatch a Jeep instead of one of our, $200,000 rollbacks. Yeah. So, and it kind of just gained popularity from there. So
when did that kind of start? So like you guys had the tow company was around before the off-road recovery side of it. So how long into the company before you guys really started looking and doing off-road recovery stuff?
I think that was around 2014 when we first got the Jeep. And then my first Jeep ended up being a 2001 Jeep Cherokee that we got from the impound lot.
Nice.
It was a recovered stolen vehicle, and still had the keys. So had to put it back together, and that's what I drove.
Nice.
So was that your first vehicle?
Technically, yes.
All right. So what did you end up doing to that vehicle?
So when I got a hold of it, it just had like a basic 2.5-inch lift on it. And at the time, it was a bigger lift than my dad had on his Jeep. And there was a particular instance where we were on a job in the snow, and he couldn't go any further. He was leading the way, and he just couldn't keep pushing the snow. And I'm like, well, maybe I can. I'm a little bit taller, and we'll see. So I drove around him in the really deep snow, and I think that's when it like clicked for him that he needs to upgrade his Jeep. He needs to do better than me. So right after that, like that weekend, his Jeep got torn apart, and he was working on putting different axles under it and bigger tires, just so that he could be a little bit more capable than me, I think. But also, it was in the best interest of the people who were stuck.
Yeah.
So obviously, we needed to get them out. But yeah, and then from there, we just kind of upgraded things as they broke or needed updating.
Yeah, that's funny. My father and I have a battle as well, but my dad's not into off-roading and not really into vehicles at all. But our battle's in technology. So I'm always trying to have a better computer than him and a bigger TV than him. So, and then when I succeed, he gets so pissed. But luckily we're not to the point where we're all like every few months we're swapping something. It's just like, oh, my computer's out. I guess I'm going to have to get a new one, and then I go above and beyond just to beat him.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Do you have that same friendly competition still to this day? Or did Dad just go above and beyond and you've never caught up?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
We're split ways and are working on different projects.
Sure.
So obviously we got the banana to a certain point where it was like kind of any more modifications would be overkill. We'd be reaching the limits of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. That's when we designed the Morvair, the Corvair based LS. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it.
But in case somebody out there hasn't seen it, just give us a quick rundown of it.
Yeah.
So the Morvair is the body of it is based off a 1961 Chevy Lakewood Corvair. Originally, it had a flat six air cooled motor in the back, kind of like a Volkswagen, and it's now on 1-ton axles, LS powered, and 40-inch tires. So, yeah,
is it still
it's
air
pretty
cooled?
Fun to watch run around.
Yeah, sorry. Is it still air cooled?
No, well, I mean, technically everything's air cooled.
Yeah, sure.
But no, it's got the LM7 5.3 LS in it, and obviously that needs a bit more to keep cool.
Sure. Cool.
So
being in St. George with, like you said, all the OHV recreation opportunities out there, have you guys always kind of been into off-roading, or we're not really until you got the Cherokee for the business that you guys started getting more into off-roading and into this off-road scene?
So, I mean, I still wouldn't say we're like fully into off-roading. It just so happens to be what we have and are kind of part of. But yeah, that was the first Jeep that we ever had. Actually, growing up, we had a lot of sand rails and quads and stuff, and we'd spend a lot of time at the sand dunes. So, like before San Paulo had a reservoir, like we were down there doing drag races.
down where the reservoir is now.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
When did they put the reservoir in?
They put it in. Can't remember. I think it was like 2004, 2003, 2004.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. I assumed it was a long time ago, but that doesn't seem like it was all that long. Well, cool. Yeah. So let's start on to Rudys Adventure and Design. What got you into that? How'd you start it? What led you down this rabbit hole that you're currently on?
Yeah. So, obviously with not having any proper schooling, I had pretty limited options according to my teachers of what I could become when I grew up. Still figuring it out as I grow up. Mm-hmm. But with the YouTube and the towing, it really like opened a lot of doors. And just the reason I split off from my dad's channel was we were actually too similar. So we didn't need two people butting heads on every project. And I mean butting heads in a family way.
Yeah.
But there was just like, he owned everything, obviously, and he was the final say. And as stubborn as I was, being his son, I kind of caused a lot of issues between us. So we still work on things, but not as closely as when I worked there. Okay. So, and anyone who's worked with family can probably understand that same thing.
Yep.
So it kind of had to happen, and off-road recovery wasn't really for me. It kind of ties you down a lot. Like you have to be ready to go at the drop of a dime.
You're on call 24/7 pretty much.
Yeah. You might be going to California or Idaho. Like you don't know where you're going. And that aspect was kind of hard for me, as well. But yeah, so obviously I had enough following that when I broke off, I could continue doing YouTube and building really fun vehicles.
Nice.
So what was your first project on your channel?
So on my dad's channel, we had started working on my 99 Jeep Cherokee. We had just barely put Super Duty axles under it and kind of finished the suspension, but leaving, or I guess the first couple projects on my channel were putting a roll cage in it, chopping the roof off of it. We ended up blowing up the motor, so we had to do a motor swap. But yeah, so I worked on my Cherokee for a while, and I still work on it from time to time. But that was the first project I finished, I want to say. I don't know. It's not done, but yeah.
They never are.
Yeah.
Okay, so working on the Cherokee. You just recently did was that just a burnout truck? Was it a simple purpose design built for burnouts, or what was the whole concept behind the truck you did recently?
So you're talking about the 63 C10, I'd assume. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that was a project for my little brother.
Okay.
Who just likes those trucks, and he said he wanted one slammed, and I said, that sounds like a really fun project. Let's go do it. Uh-huh. So we LS swapped it. Obviously, it's got custom airbag suspension front and rear, and yeah, it's just a really fun party truck. Essentially, it can definitely cruise too. So like we built it to be able to drive across the country. Wow. Basically to burn off the tires.
Yeah. Yeah. But did you have much experience slamming vehicles before that, or did you have to do a lot of research to figure out how to do it? Or was it just kind of like, well, I know that it needs to get low to the ground and all this stuff is in the way, so it has to be moved somehow?
So, I mean, I think at that point, the only vehicle I'd ever seen that had airbags was a tow truck. Uh-huh. So I don't even know what I was up against, I guess. I'm like, these are the components it needs. This is what we should do. Yeah, let's make it happen. So I roughly built the A-arm front suspension based off of a Suburban, like 2004 Suburban suspension. And then the rear is completely custom one-off. It's like a 4-link with trailing arms and a Watts link.
Oh, wow. Dang.
Yeah, completely original to me, I guess. I've never seen anyone do it like that.
Yeah.
So
interesting. It was lowering a vehicle as easy as raising a vehicle, just kind of in the opposite direction. What I mean by that is it sort of the same componentry, just you're going in a way trying to go down instead of up.
I would say lowering is way harder than lifting. Like, yeah, lifting, you're like, if it doesn't clear, be like, okay, I'm going to lift it another inch and then it will clear and it'll be fine. With lowering, it's like, no, you got to make it fit, and it's got to go an inch lower actually now.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, yeah, super challenging. But I mean, a lot of the off-road suspension and geometry does translate over into lowrider stuff. So especially with the 4-link and independent front, I just applied a lot of the same geometry from building off-road vehicles and into that, and it does extremely well. It does exactly what I want it to.
Perfect. How did you learn about off-road suspension geometry? Was it just something that you were trial and error kind of thing, or?
Well, I've always been fascinated by vehicles that like work, being like when we first got a Jeep Cherokee to do off-road recoveries, everything is performance based. If it can't get them out, we're doing something wrong. We need to go change something and make it work. Yeah. So, and then from that, obviously I've been to other off-road events. I've seen vehicles that do well, and I want to know why they do well, why one Cherokee does better than the other Cherokee, even though it looks like they have the same suspension. Mm-hmm. And come to find out with anti-squat and all your roll centers and everything, they can be very, very different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
So how would one learn those tips and tricks that you would have? Is it simply by doing a bunch of internet research? Would you be talking to the people at events, or really just trying it again and redoing it over and over and over again? Do you got any suggestions for people?
Yeah. So honestly, I went to Pirate 4x4 a lot, with all the old forums and everything that are just, they have a lot of knowledge in them. You got to sort through a lot of garbage, but there's a lot of good stuff in them. Another one is, I think Crawlpedia has a really good write-up on the basics of like 4-link suspension and geometry. And then from that, I took what I thought I understood from there, and I'd go to somewhere like King of Hammers or, Johnson Valley, and I'd see the race cars, which actually have to perform. If they don't, they break, they come apart, or they don't finish. And so I talked to a lot of the drivers and builders of those cars and just kind of bounce ideas off of them of what they did and why they did it and what works. So, and from that, I've developed a lot, or the suspension I'm working on right now is derived a lot of different ideas I've had in the past.
Okay. I have a couple of questions when we get to the car. I was looking at over your Instagram and I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to do that. That's an interesting way to do that. What the hell is that going on here? So I have some questions when we get there, but we'll get to that one in a bit. Soon. Yeah. No, it's really cool. You do some really good work, and it's fun to see people who just seem to have almost this natural knack for fabrication and engineering and design for off-road vehicles and vehicles in general. I mean, you've proven that, you can do a slammed vehicle too, not just off-road stuff. So it's fun to see people and get people on the show, because a lot of times they're very niched in what their experiences and what their skill sets can do, right? And so to find somebody that can kind of put it all together into one package is fun to have on the show. I get to pick your brain about stuff.
Well, thanks. It's been a pleasure so far. Yeah.
So let's go over into the OnX Off-Road Build Challenge. We've had obviously a few people on from the challenge that are building some pretty interesting rigs. Did you have any part of the build challenge last year? Did you have anything to do with it, or how did you get involved with this build challenge this year?
So last year I was brought on by a friend of mine, Holly Fowler with Seat Time Syndicate, our Mischief Maker TV. Mm-hmm. And basically she'd asked if I'd be a part of this build challenge that she's doing, that OnX Off-Road is putting on. And I said, that sounds like fun. Like, yeah, I can definitely help with that. And I'm like, I don't want the vehicle when it's over. Yeah. She's like, that's fine. We'll take it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'd definitely love to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And then about like 4 weeks into it, she broke her back in an accident. Mm-hmm. And I took on the full workload.
The whole project now. Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily she's healed up from that accident and is able to participate this year. But yeah, last year I essentially got thrown into it pretty heavily.
Yeah. So how did the rig work out last year? Because if I remember correctly, were you guys top in the voting? You were 1 or 2, right?
So we were top in the voting, but the way the competition works is you can kind of bid your votes away or lose votes for things. That's not exactly clear yet. And this year I'm kind of confused about the same things. But yeah, regardless, like the general public can go and vote for their favorite build, and then those votes can help us in the competition later on.
Oh, interesting.
So even though somebody's low in the votes, they could make it up in the competition later.
Okay.
So yeah. And that's just so it doesn't become a popularity contest.
Gotcha.
But last year I definitely took on more than I could handle, and I didn't quite finish a lot of what I wanted to in the build. And in the end, that kind of really came around and bit me in the butt.
Like what? What are some examples of those? We love watching train wrecks, right? So we got to know what went wrong here.
Well, I would say the biggest train wreck was converting to fuel injection. I tried to do it budget. I'm not going to name the company, but everybody who watched knows exactly what I used. And in the first week of the competition, I went through 3 entire units. Like
wow.
It was the fuel injection, like carburetor. Mm-hmm. I had 3 full setups on there, and all of them failed within a couple of days or hours.
Wow.
So Yeah, I was having huge issues with that. Day one, we woke up for the competition and my fan clutch went out. So I was overheating in July in Moab on a very steep trail that was not great. And yeah. And then of course, the final destination, we went to Montrose, Colorado, which has some trails that are definitely no joke. So, and I was asked to build an overlander, and they took us rock crawling.
Yeah, that's what we kind of keep hearing from the participants from last year.
Yeah. No, I built what I thought was the coolest overlander, and we went rock crawling, which it did fine at, other than the previous issues that I didn't quite have time to work out of it. So, but other than that, it was a good time.
Nice.
So, taking some of these pitfalls and the experience of last year, how are you approaching what you're doing this year?
Yeah, so this year I'm going full on race car. I am decided to throw everything away and start from scratch. And I think I've given myself enough time to make sure everything works properly in the competition.
Nice. So yeah, let's get into your choice, because this is one of the things I absolutely love about this year. Last year, it seems like everybody did fairly, I don't know, safe vehicles, fairly, I don't want to say easy platforms. This year, everybody's doing something nuts and something crazy, and I absolutely love it. And I gotta admit, I was gonna say that I thought that Matt's Bleepin' Jeep Matt, his build was going to be my favorite, but after looking at what you have going on now, I'm kind of like, it's clever. It's fun and it's hilarious. And so give a little bit of a description here, because I think we're going to end up getting into the weeds. So high level, what are you doing right now with your build here for the build challenge?
So currently I've diesel swapped. Do you want me to reveal what the vehicle is, or hold on?
If that's okay with you, yeah. I mean, it's on your Instagram, so
yeah, it is all
tell
over.
Tell us all the details.
So this year for the OnX Off-Road Build Challenge, I decided to build a Mini Cooper because I thought it would be hilarious. And so there's a big part of design that I love, that like the final product has to look good too.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see something in a Mini Cooper that would be a really kind of attractive looking rock crawler, kind of like my dad's Corvair, or the Morvair ended up being. And I just thought the body lines of the Mini Cooper were a little bit unique, and nobody else has one. So
it's cool. If you look at it, you talk about the body lines and being a nice little off-road buggy rock crawler thing. It reminds me a lot of Harry Wagner's old, is that the Geo Metro, or was it that
tracker?
Was it a tracker?
Maybe.
I don't think it was was it a tracker? I remember what it was. It was a small, tiny little car though. And then
Jesse Haynes
did the build on it. God, there was somebody else had a really tiny car recently as just like this little buggy.
I think his name's the Ghoul on Instagram. He's got the little Fiat bodied buggies. Those are pretty cool, I think.
Or were you thinking of Dirt Every Day with their Rad 4?
The Rad 4, that's what I was thinking of. The Rad 4 that they did on Dirt Every Day. So I don't know. I just think it's fun. You're right. The body lines make it an awesome little rock crawler. It just fits into all these little places.
Yeah. Last year I went big and I destroyed the body, and this year I'll go small and hopefully not.
There you go. So, what all are you doing to this Mini Cooper? I mean, so diesel swapped. What diesel are you throwing in there?
So I have a 1982 Mercedes OM617 turbo diesel. That's just a 5-cylinder, 3-liter.
5-cylinder one, yep.
Yep. Completely mechanical. Like even the shutoff solenoid is vacuum activated.
Jeez.
So I didn't want to have any electrical issues this year, and I figured I'd start with a platform that doesn't have any to begin with.
There you go.
That's that motor. And then we're doing 1-ton axles. So I've got a Super Duty 60 up front and a GM 14 bolt in the rear. And then with that, we're doing coilovers and bypasses. And and the rear trailing arms. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So how much of this build is still Mini Cooper?
So like the doors and the windshield.
A little bit of the hood.
A little.
Some of the
No, all
dash.
of the hood, actually.
Yeah, all the hood. Okay.
Yeah.
How about the interior? We got the dash set up. Are you still using the cab's wiring harness and all?
Nope. There's not a single bit of wiring anywhere in the car. I'm using the dash mat that like covered the top of the dash. But there's a lot of people that are like, that's not even a Mini Cooper anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but it kind of is, because it fit. Like I can take another Mini Cooper body and put it on the chassis. Like there's no other, it's not built for anything else. Like I can't take a Wrangler body and put it on there. It won't fit. It only fits Mini Cooper.
And that brings up an interesting point about like how much after hacking up a vehicle is it still the vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many friends out there do we all have that have Jeeps but have completely new engines, new transmissions, new axles.
It's just the grill.
And grill and a hood. Yeah. And it's like, well, is it still a Jeep or is it, a Ford or something?
Or is it a Mercedes?
Yeah.
Or is it a GM vehicle? What vehicle is it?
At what point do you actually draw that line that it becomes a Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with that, I mean, it just has to keep the soul of the vehicle. So obviously it was a Mini Cooper before. It's not a Mini Cooper now, but what is it?
Right. That's a good question, right? Maybe that's how you define it is. If you look at the vehicle, what would you say that is? And I would look at that rig and be like, oh, it's a Mini Cooper.
A mini truggy.
It's a mini truggy.
According to the state, though, it's still a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, perfect.
We might get into like how the hell are you registering that later on, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole at the moment. I'm curious. So did you put I'm assuming, and I'd have never like stared underneath a Mini Cooper, but I'm assuming there's no frame on a Mini Cooper. So did you put it on the Mercedes frame?
So the Mercedes actually didn't have a frame either.
Yeah.
So no. So if you look under a Mini Cooper, if you get it up on the lift, they are flat bottom. There is no contours to the bottom of a Mini Cooper. It is incredible, really. I was shocked. So that made it really easy to just.
That makes it super easy to put on whatever chassis you want.
Two straight pieces of steel and boom, frame.
Done. So you built your own frame to fit the flat bottom of the Mini Cooper, and then how'd you position the engine under the hood of a Mini Cooper?
Yeah, so the Mercedes engine is a front sump engine, and so the oil pan comes really far down, right where the axle needs to be. So I ended up pulling the bottom half of the block apart and re-welding a new, I guess, oil pan location under it to save me some space there. And then I just shoved it as far up as I could. It's about a half inch away from the hood when the hood's closed. So, and then basically forward and back, obviously I couldn't really bring it farther forward than it already is. Let me rephrase that. Obviously I can't just have the motor sticking out of the front of the Mini Cooper. Otherwise it wouldn't look like a Mini Cooper at all anymore. So I messed around with a lot of different configurations, and the stock transmission behind the Mercedes, the 2-wheel drive transmission, ended up being my shortest option for saving room. So I converted it to a 4-wheel drive transmission, and we're running a 231 doubler behind that. And basically I've just positioned the outputs of the transfer case exactly where my links move.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I saw a post there. You're talking about the transfer cases. You had a question of how many T cases does it take to make 2 good T cases? And you had, from quick glimpse, it looked like 10 to 12 torn apart transfer cases there around you. How many did it end up taking?
So I think we actually, we tore apart 8, but they all had something wrong with them. And some of them were already torn apart. So yeah, around 10 to 12 transfer cases laying there.
Dang.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. We got it. We got it figured out. So now we just have a simple doubler setup.
There you go. And lots of spare parts for other stuff.
Oh yeah, they'll get used up.
Yeah.
They'll get used up.
Of course. So where does the mini truggy sit at? Do you have a name for it?
I call it the King Cooper.
King Cooper. All right. Where does the King Cooper sit now? Like how far along is it? What else needs to get done?
So as of now, I am waiting for my front bypasses to get here. And as soon as those get here, I can order springs and it can be sitting on its own weight. Then I need to figure out, I guess, the electronics, get the dash figured out, all the gauges working, get a fuel tank in it and radiator plumbed. But other than that, I mean, it's a buggy, so there's not a lot to it. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Aside from the complications I've added with the steering, but
yeah. So that's going to be one of my questions. What the hell do you have going on? That was the what the hell is going on there comment. What with the steering? He doesn't really have a drag link. I mean, he does. You do have a drag link, but it's like how does that work? Is your steering box on the axle?
No, the steering box is under the passenger seat.
Okay, and so does the steer? Okay, walk me through this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give us some baby steps here.
All right. So the general idea of what I have comes from Ultra 4, the 4500 class rules, which states you have to maintain a mechanical link steering. So with the engine off, turn the wheel, your front tires will steer. I have a huge issue with track bars. I think they're horrible, and mathematically I don't like them. Okay. they cause a bind. Even if you have Heims, it makes so you can't really run a proper 4-link. Mm-hmm. You have to run a 3-link. I don't like that. And I also don't like how the axle drops out the side. So I wanted to eliminate that and run a double triangulated 4-link up front. Mm-hmm. And obviously that causes complications with running steering traditionally. So there's actually, I got the idea a while ago from hot rod guys. A lot of the rat rod guys will run a bell crank or a cowl steering. And that essentially is the drag link running the length of the links that they have on their car. And it eliminates bump steer. If you match the side, the length and the angle of your front arms, mm-hmm. then you have no bump steer with it. Yeah. So I figured, why can't you do that with a Jeep or off-road vehicle? It would do the same thing. So that's what we did. And that puts the steering box underneath the passenger seat. So it goes.
How does it get from the driver to under the passenger now?
So it goes from the steering wheel into a chain driven box. So it goes from like the chain to the passenger floorboard. And from there, there's what is it called? I don't know, the steering shaft, steering input into the steering box. Okay. It points straight back into the steering box. So, and I actually have it running super close to the transmission. So there's still foot room for the passenger because I like some of the people I ride with. But it disconnected.
We lost you there for a sec.
Okay.
Back now.
All right. How far did you get?
You like most of the people you drive with, you have in the passenger.
Yeah. Okay. And I can get away with running my steering like that because my exhaust is going out the hood. I'm going full diesel with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't have to worry about running my exhaust underneath the car. Mm-hmm. And so it saves me a lot of space to play with the steering. So, and right now we have it worked out so that I have 14 inches of travel in the front and 0 bump steer, double triangulated. And yeah.
Wow. That's super clever. On the steering, I mean, you have the steering box under the passenger floorboard. And so that what comes down to what is the arm that you have on the axle with the drag link?
Yeah. So the link that comes from the steering box down to the axle, I need to, I guess, convert it from a pulling motion to a, left, right. And I do that using a bell crank, and it's essentially the same arc that the steering box follows anyway. So You know, if you have a triangle and you have it like pinned in one corner of it, if you push on one edge, it'll rotate around in an arc or a radius. So I'm using that to get my steering on the axle.
It's super clever. I would not have put all that together just looking at the picture of the front on look of the Mini Cooper. I was like, what the hell is going on with your steering, man? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's super clever though.
I don't have it released yet, but I actually have it finished and it works great. Like nice. I don't have the Mini Cooper finished, but I have the steering finished and it's effortless to move.
That's cool. Has that been something that you've had in your head for a long time? And you're just like, I think that steering could be done this way. Or was this just something in the moment? You're like, how the hell do you package a steering with a double triangulated under this Mercedes engine? And you're like, oh, I think we could do all this.
Or was this something you found deep, very far on Pirate 4x4?
So a long time ago, when I saw the hot rod guys, I was into hot rods and rat rods and stuff. I'm like, oh, that would be super cool to do. And that obviously, or like earlier, I mentioned that you could do it on a Jeep effectively the same way. And so for like the last 5 years, I've been trying to develop a way in my head to make it work. And then I went to Johnson Valley and saw those cars racing with the same steering as I just talked about. And I'm like, dang it, it's been done. I'm 20 years late. Like there's nothing new anymore. Oh well. But that's not entirely the case, because a lot of those guys are even doing it like they're kind of copying each other. They're obviously making it work for their application, but there's a lot of similarities between them. But mine is kind of the way I thought it up before I discovered other people were doing it. So
let's talk a little bit about another Ultra 4, I think, inspired setup with the Mini Cooper, your rear links.
Yeah. So I went rear trailing arms, and I did that to get a shorter shock. Shorter shocks are cheaper, and in a budget build, it's all about money.
That's a big chunk of your money isn't going to be in your shocks and coilovers.
Yeah. So I found a set of used shocks and coilovers on Facebook Marketplace, and the the coilover is a 8-inch stroke and the bypass is a 10-inch stroke. And I wanted 16 inches of travel out of the rear. So that moves the shocks 50% of the way up the link. And I know I didn't want them low because it's a rock crawler. And I mean, I've heard people call them rock anchors, and you definitely don't want to be hung up on things. Yeah, they call the trailing arms rock anchors.
So I think when most people see trailing arms, they think of it as, you know, how trophy trucks run trailing arms or how go fast desert vehicles run trailing arms. So what's special about the way you have your trailing arm set up?
So I have my trailing arms as upper links. And that's pretty uncommon to do it that way. I know a while back, Lauren Healy, who races Ultra 4, had a car set up like that. And I never found anything that said why he either moved away or why he didn't do it again. And everyone else who's ever done it has never really had anything negative to say either. It just comes down to packaging. So on the Mini Cooper, I'm cutting everything away anyway. Why not do it? You know? So, and it gets those links and shocks way up out of the way. And so far it's working okay.
Yeah. No more rock anchors.
Yeah. No more rock anchors.
Yeah. Cause you got the bottom triangulation is inside at near the pumpkin shooting away, and then that's the lower link. So you have all the room for obstacles to come at the tire, and you're not going to have any of those, your trailing arms or your upper links. So they're way out of the way. It's really clever.
Yep. Yeah. I was noticing that, I don't know, a couple of years ago on the Gomez's cars. And so I was like, oh, that's a different way to do trailing arm setup. And I was talking with somebody from their crew. I forget who it was, but he goes, oh yeah, no, if you think about it, you know, the way that the lowers are triangulated, everything there's nothing in line with the tires anymore as you're coming up over rocks. So I was like, oh, clever. Okay.
Yeah, that was another reason. That's how I have it set up on my first XJ. Is the same way. It kind of protects the drive shaft too.
Yeah, true.
So with the lower links pointed in like that.
Yeah.
So
nice. All right. What other kind of fun things did you do on the rig with this buggy and this build?
I think that's it. I mean, I've got some tricks up my sleeve to make it an overlander.
You can put a rooftop tank on it.
I've thought about it. I don't think it's in the budget for it though. And it might ruin the look a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little. So one of the things I know that OnX came out more or less beginning of this competition and said, we're doing another overland competition. But then didn't they go step back on that and say, we're going to do more rock crawling?
I don't know what the official declaration is on the matter.
That seems to be the consensus for everyone we've talked to so far.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're building a off-road race buggy that's going to be an overlander with air quotes.
I think it's less air quotes than a lot of the builds because I'm going to have a kitchen in the back of it.
Oh,
you do have a lot of space in the back of the Mini Cooper. So
yeah, with it being a diesel, I figured I'd utilize some of Power Tank's mounts and mount propane in the back of it and have a propane assisted diesel. But then I'm like, if I have propane on the rig, I might as well throw a grill on. So gonna do like some of those Toyota guys do and put a little propane grill in the tailgate.
Nice. You can take a little pizza oven topper for your grill and make pizzas for everybody out there.
Great. Yeah, there is a cooking competition.
Oh, there you
go. Nice. Yeah. There you go. That sounds fun too. Yeah, the whole challenge sounds like a great time just to be a part of it, to be the competition side, the build side is always fun, but just going out with the group of people that are, doing it, it sounds like a great group of people that are all partaking for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they definitely got together a good group.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, do you want to do any shout outs of companies that you're working with, sponsors for the builds or any for your channel or for the build or any of that?
Not really.
All right. That works.
Yeah.
That way you don't forget one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I don't want to feel anyone I don't want to make anyone feel left out.
Yeah.
I guess. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. If people want to check out more of what you're doing, where can they find you at all over the place?
YouTube is probably the best bet. I'm also on Instagram. My Facebook is sketchy because there's so many fake accounts that are way bigger than mine. So.
And what name would that be under for Instagram or YouTube?
Yeah. So the name you can find me under is Rudys Adventure and Design. Usually if you look up Rudys, it'll self-populate. So
cool. And then we'll make sure to put a link in the description of the podcast, linking you guys over to the OnX Build Challenge. So if you want to vote for Rudy, you can definitely click on those to do that. All you need to do is be subscribed to their website to vote. You actually don't have to own the software, though. Correct. We do suggest the software.
Yeah. So real quick question for you, Rudy, before we take off.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite build out of all the builds so far this year? Is it yours?
It probably is mine.
You think
Definitely
it is yours?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this build for the last 5 years.
Perfect.
I've been wanting to do something like this. So, but I mean, Robbie's bread truck, super creative. I'd love to see it out on the trail and working. Matt's XJ is different, very niche, I want to say. Yeah. But no, they're all really cool, and I'm sure whatever everyone comes up with will have aspects that I love about it. So
yeah. I feel like it's going to be a lot less about the competition and more about you guys getting together and being like, how the hell did you do that? Oh, that's super clever, and coming up with comparing everybody's ideas once all the rigs are in one spot.
Yeah.
Well, very cool, man. One of my favorite parts of the show, I get to put everybody on the spot here and ask for final words. So we'll wrap up the show. Whatever you want to leave listeners with, ideas, words of advice, or just, I don't know, pay attention and watch or get some OnX stuff, whatever. Jimmy Jet, final words for everybody out there.
One of my big takeaways from this episode, and thanks for joining us again there, Rudy, is to dream big. It seems like Rudy has always been has these ideas and has been trying to figure out solutions to the ideas or different ways to build his ideas, and then figures it out and does it. So I'm going to go with dream big.
Nice. I like it. Rudy, any final words for everybody out there?
Whenever anybody asks, I just tell them to be a good person. Remember who you are.
I like that as well.
Your mom would say.
Yep. And don't try and wear cowboy boots in Canada. So with that, my friends, don't forget everybody out there, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Oh, okay.
How is a baseball team similar to a pancake?
That doesn't help at all. I have no idea.
That should help.
Oh,
It's not basketball. It's baseball.
baseball.
Baseball team similar to a pancake.
Similar to a pancake.
What do you put on pancake?
Oh, they all have batters?
Pretty much. They both need a good batter.
Oh, okay. That works.
Good job.
Thank you.
You almost got it.
I was there. I had it.
Leading you in.
That's close.
All right.